Hi everyone, welcome to Papa's Workshop. You know, my son just got back from a trip out west and he got some myrtle wood for me, and I've never used it before, and this is a perfect opportunity to be able to make a pen. This pen is by Penn State Industries. It's a very durable, everyday carry pen that actually should last for years. So I'm excited to be able to make this pen, and I want to show you how I did it. So let's get started. I recently received my summer catalog from Penn State Industries, and one of the pens that's featured on the cover, which is this one right here, is an everyday carry pen. When I turn over to page 6, you can see the pen displayed with the different type finishes. So you have the aluminum color here, as well as the stainless steel, the brass, the burnt bronze, and you have the black as well. It's a black anodized aluminum. These kits are very complete, and they also tell you what bushing kit to be able to have with this to be able to put these pens together and to turn them on the lathe. Now this kit is the brass, and what you're going to do, you're going to find that it's a very, very complete kit. It has everything that you need, including the refill, and this is a Parker style refill. Of course, it has the spring right there. Here's the clip, and then the various parts to be able to put it together. And this is the part that goes on top. And then I have the bushing kit right here that is specified that would be required to be able to use on the lathe. Now recently my son went to a trip out west and was able to find a hardwood store that had, he sent pictures and it was just made me drool. There was just so many different types of wood there in all different sizes. But he did pick up a few samples for me, and he picked up a couple of pieces of black walnut and picked up this piece of myrtle, which I think actually is a very pretty wood. So this is what I'm going to use today, a piece of myrtle, to be able to turn this pen. Now I want to show you the instructions, which are actually very complete. And in preparation to be able to turn this, I need to be able to prepare this blank. And to be able to do that, I need to know what size drill bit to drill to accommodate this brass tube into the center of it. And on the instructions it says that I need to have the 8mm. And this is my 8mm bit that I'm going to use. The nice thing about this is a brad tip bit, and you can see that in the camera, and that point actually makes it where it helps to keep it centered as you're drilling a hole. The first step in being able to prepare this blank is be able to cut this blank to the length. Now using a brass tube, I'm just going to lay that onto the wood, and I want this wood to be just a little bit long. So I'm going to leave this about a 1/16 of an inch long on this side, then I'm going to mark it at the other end, and the same thing, I'm going to make it about a 1/16 of an inch long. And what that does, it allows me to be able to square the end. Several years ago, I made this simple jig to be able to support the wood when I'm drilling it. And this just slides in, and then I can tighten it down. And that holds it securely in place while I am drilling this hole. Now you can purchase a regular manufactured one from Penn State Industries. Now in this same summer catalog, you can see the pen blank drilling center vise, and it lists for $54.95. So this is something certainly that you could purchase if you did not want to make your own. Now after marking the center point on this blank, I took it over to the drill press, and with the 8mm drill bit in place, I just went ahead and drilled the center hole into the blank. And this is really actually fairly soft wood. I was kind of surprised. This is the first time I've used the myrtle wood. Okay, I've got the hole drilled now, and that came out exactly where I wanted it. That's perfect. So the next step now is to be able to prepare the brass tubing. Now it comes where the surface of the brass is already roughed up, and that helps to be able to make it stick well with the epoxy into the wood. But what I like to be able to do is just makes me feel good, may not be necessary, but I like to rough it up a little bit more with a like a 60 or a 100 grit paper. In this case, I'm using the 100 grit paper. So now I'm going to go ahead and mix the epoxy, and we'll put this in. When using the epoxy, you want to make sure that you mix it very well to be able to mix the two ingredients together. And then from there, you want to be able to have a good coat that covers well on this brass tubing. And you do not want to have little air gaps. So take your time for this part and coat the tubing well. Now I'll slide that in. And you can see that that's covering really well. And that's what I want it to be able to do. And I want to check the other end and make sure that it still has good coverage as well. And I'll slide that back in. And you can see I have good coverage all the way around this end as well. So I'm going to go ahead and put it now in place exactly where it needs to be. And that makes it where it's about a 1/16 of an inch from each end. And that's where I want it. I'm going to wipe off the excess. And now we'll let this dry, and we'll be ready to go ahead and square up each of the ends and put this on the lathe. Now I have the blank set up on the lathe, and I'm running the lathe at the lowest speed possible on mine. And this lathe, the slowest speed is 875 RPM. So I'm taking very light passes to be able to start the carving process. Once the blank is round, I can actually speed up the lathe and continue turning this blank to the final shape. Now to be able to turn this, I just use a small gouge, and I realized I could use the skew or other tools, but I just chose to stick with this one. It was working really well. With the final shape done, it's time to sand. And one of the most important things is you definitely want to remove the tool rest before you start sanding. Now I'm beginning with a 60 grit sandpaper, and I'm going to work all the way up to 500. Now after each grit is completed, I stop the machine and take that sandpaper and sand with the grain. This helps to remove any small imperfections and swirls that will get into the wood. This helps to remove that, and that's an important step that you do not want to forget. Once that's done, go ahead and clean the blank, and then I'll move on to the next grit of paper. As I move through the grits, going from the coarse all the way to the fine, it's important to note that on this process, I do not skip any of the grits of paper. So I go from the 60 to the 80 to the 100 and so on all the way through, all the way to 500. And I use the exact same method where I will sand it, then I will stop the machine and sand with the grain, and then I clean the blank and move to the next grit. Okay, the sanding part is completed, and the next thing I do is just take some of the shavings and actually burnish the wood. And this really helps to smooth that last little bit of the wood, and I really like doing this. It only takes just a few minutes, and don't skip this. Burnishing of the wood is an important step in the whole process. Now I take alcohol and just wipe off the blank to remove all of the dust, and the alcohol dries extremely fast. The finish that I've chosen to use is the Starbond Thin Super Glue. This makes for a very, very durable finish, and I love working with this. I'm also going to put a link in the description where you can purchase this glue at a 10% discount. To apply the glue, I use a paper towel and just put a few drops of the super glue onto the paper towel and lightly touch the wood. Now, I do use an accelerator between the different coats, and it makes the Starbond glue dry instantly. And I can continue on putting multiple coats on. Now, I didn't count, but I'm going to say that I put at least 10 to 15 coats of the Starbond glue onto this pen blank. The next step in the process is taking the sanding pads, and again, these are available from Penn State Industries, and I wet sand the pen blank through the various grits of these sanding pads. And the end result of this, it leaves the blank really looking like a glass-like, very, very smooth finish. Now the final step is to use the one-step plastic polish to be able to polish this blank. I use a paper towel to be able to apply this finish, and it dries almost instantly, and I can continue adding the coats until I get the high gloss that I'm looking for. And it only takes just a matter of minutes. This is a friction polish, and it dries almost immediately. In identifying the parts, of course, this is the tip, and this part will actually screw in to this actual tip. So what I want to be able to do is go ahead and press this part into the wood, and then this will go into the other end, and this is the press fit portion. To be able to do that, I'm going to go ahead and set that right in here. I'm going to get right up close to the camera, and they have a little small recessed portion here, and it makes it where that will just slide in just a tiny bit, and that helps to align the pen to be able to go together. And then from there, I'm going to put that right into this point, and then be able to press this together. So the first part is in. Now the next part will go right into here, and it has that same little section, so this helps to align it when you put it in. Now the other thing that I want to do, the clip goes in here as well. So let me open up the clip. And this wood is so beautiful. I really don't know if there's a good place or a bad place or anything, because it's just so ideal. But that's going to go in just like that. So let me go ahead and press that in place now. I'm going to pull out one more block. And there we go. Now that part is done. Now the next thing that I want to do is take this click mechanism and screw that into place. Okay. And then from there, we'll insert the refill. And that will slide in this direction. We have a spring that will need to go onto this pin, and then we'll put the tip on it, and we'll screw that into position. And then there is the completed pen, and you push that, point comes out perfect, and then you can retract it. I think this turned out to be an absolutely beautiful pen. Hi everyone, thank you for watching my video today. If you like the video, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button down below and the little bell next to it so you'll be notified on the different videos that I upload. Also check out the videos over here to be able to stay up to date on the happenings in my shop. So again, thank you for watching my videos.